Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, thanks to you all for coming here today in an expression of solidarity and resistance. I see many faces from the town, but for those of you who are visiting Middlesbrough for the first time, I can only assume you brought the weather with you. You're all very, very welcome. Before I start, I'd like to thank Helen for chairing this great event, and thanks to everyone involved at the PSA for organising this rally. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, Friedrich Hayek, there's not a name you hear every day, but he was Margaret Thatcher's favourite economist, and he famously said that the problem with the British trade unions was that they refused to accept that they couldn't change the world. Long may that continue. But it's only through workers acting together that the rights we now have, through from state education to healthcare free at the point of use, to protections in work, to pensions, to not being discriminated against for our sex, creed or colour, all these rights have been achieved by people banding together and demanding them. Yet the hard-won rights of working people and families are under attack as never before by this government. We have the ludicrous Shares for Rights scheme, where you'll be encouraged to give up your right to redundancy pay, your protection from unfair dismissal, and women will have to give up their right to maternity pay. All of this for £2,000. And you won't even be given the cash, you'll be given shares in the company. It's the modern equivalent of 30 pieces of silver. Can I dwell on a particular matter? Because just a fortnight ago the government passed a bill changing the rules on compensation. It means that the burden of proving what caused an accident in the workplace will now fall on the injured worker or the family of somebody killed rather than the employer. In future, the worker, if he or she is to recover compensation, will have to prove what the employer knew or ought to have known about a machine being faulty, a corridor being obstructed, or the defective roof that caused the young lad at 19 years old to fall 40 feet and sustain spinal injuries. Proving that an employer broke health and safety laws will no longer be enough. How is an employee to know the maintenance history of a machine? How can an injured worker prove that the employer was aware of the rules on keeping routes clear? We still have a strong manufacturing sector here on Teesside. Good employers don't want to change this. These changes hurt them by failing to punish bosses who put their workers in danger. This is complete madness. What's now going to happen is those 70,000 claims that would succeed for people sustaining serious injuries will now fall on the state rather than the employer's insurers. It's crazy. These are not windfalls. These are. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. We're going to repeal it because I've got a campaign going, and this is the start of it today. It's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to turn the Health and Safety Work Act back to where it should be, because these are not windfalls, they're not lottery wins. These are monies to pay for people's care, for their accommodation, for their speech therapy, for their physiotherapy, and we'll lump it on the state that will not be able to deliver. And it's an absolute windfall for these insurers, and they're rubbing their hands with glee. And of course, what they haven't thought through is they're cutting off the nose to spite the face, because the DWP won't get those state benefits back. Absolute madness. And this, as we approach Workers' Memorial Day tomorrow, this will result in more people being injured in the workplace and more people suffering serious injury. Yet again, instead of trying to raise everyone up, this government encourages a race to the bottom and puts profits before people. And of course, colleagues, nowhere is the coalition's intent clearer than with our National Health Service. Just last week, the Tories, helped by Ian Swales and the Liberal Democrats, opened up our NHS to exploitation by private companies. This is an attack on our greatest institution that all of us call on in our time of need. When Labour left office, the NHS had a 98% user satisfaction rate. This government has cut 4,500 nurses. It has cut national health spending in real terms. Remember what Cameron said? There will be no top-down reorganisation of the NHS. And what has he delivered to us? the biggest top-down reorganisation in the history of the NHS, costing this country £20 billion. Absolute madness. And he brags about the new doctors he's trained. Yet a doctor who starts in a hospital tomorrow began her training in 2006. You know, he doesn't want to think that one through. And we still spend less on the NHS than other countries do on their healthcare systems, and far less than the USA. We still have far higher levels of chronic illness, from depression to heart disease, than many of our neighbours. Yet the system keeps going, and that it does so is a testament to the hard work and dedication of its staff. And absolutely. And from the delivery of my children to the care of my elderly mother, still going at 92, the NHS has always been there for me and my family, and I promise to always stand up for it. This government has tried time and time again to divide us, north and south, rich and poor, public sector and private sector. Ned Miliband has laid out the case for a one nation, so that instead of the race to the bottom, we bring everybody up. Last week, the BBC reported that Middlesbrough was the third most anxious place in the country. People here are worried about their jobs, about their children's future, about their parents' old age. And people asked me what I thought this meant. I said it showed that we were paying attention. So I'm today calling for a broad dialogue and action to bring jobs, prosperity and security back to this town. And at the centre of my ambition is to make Middlesbrough a living wage town. It's a place where all employers pay the living wage as a minimum and a living income becomes the norm. An end to the cycle that so many people face of moving from low-paid jobs onto benefits and back to low-paid jobs again. The low-pay, no-pay cycle. An end to the disgraceful bedroom tax and every other assault on the poor and less able. I want to see the creation of proper, sustainable jobs. Jobs that are secure, not only with decent pay, but also decent terms and conditions. We've got the highest rate of long-term unemployment in Middlesbrough, and I want us to raise the hopes and aspirations of our young people. We must create opportunities for everyone to reach their potential. And yes, let's use the taxes raised on bankers' bonuses to give the long-term unemployed the guarantee of work. We've got some fantastic work being done by our schools and our colleges and of course our wonderful university, and I pay tribute to Middlesbrough College's initiative in launching this Science, Technology and Engineering and Maths initiative to get our people, our young people, energised into and work into our industries. All of us need to be involved. Politicians, trade unions, schools, colleges, the university, local business, industry and media. Public and private sector working together at the strategic and local level for the social good of this town, the Tees Valley and our region. We have it in our gift to make significant steps now, and I'm confident there'll be more and more people. There's a growing shared vision that can be turned into reality by bringing about an investment on jobs, training and regeneration. My message is that we're not powerless. As trade unionists, we are determined. There is an alternative to austerity. And as Dave Prentice of Unison said, we stand for the millions, not the millionaires. A message we all hear loud and clear. And wasn't it an absolute disgrace in the backdrop of all that money, £8 to £10 million being spent, let's have no bones about it, a state funeral. But the one remark that wasn't highlighted with sufficient clarity was Thatcher's expressed disappointment that having put the majority of the money of the wealth of this country in a tiny minority of hands, she didn't engender greater generosity and philanthropy. Well, if you're going to sit around and wait for that, you'll wait for a long, long time. If you want a more equal society, you've got to do something about it and not wait for people to be generous. So comrades, no more cuts, no more hardship, a more equal society, a collective voice to fight a government that seems to care little for those beyond its own borders. David Cameron, George Osborne, there is such a thing as society. Watch out, we are fighting back.